Hello, welcome back to All Books UG. My name is Godwin Toko. Today we are going to have a review of this book, Before the First Drop, Oil Capitalists and the Wretcheds of Western Uganda. This is a book edited by Elia Serwajja and Yusuf Sserunkuma. It is a collection of research papers on oil. It's a 2022 publication by Editor House Facility Limited, which is based in Kampala. I'm sure you've heard of the oil curse. It's a very common phenomenon these days. People talk of oil becoming a problem for countries. They tend to mention countries like Angola, Nigeria, and sometimes the Democratic Republic of Congo, among others. So that is something real. Economists have agreed that you can actually have oil in a country, and that oil, which is supposed to be a natural resource that brings blessings, turns into a curse and causes more problems than you ever would have thought. So, Uganda discovered oil, and I want to surprise you. Uganda didn't discover oil 20 or 2 decades ago. Uganda's oil has been known as far back as 1913. However, it's only over the last few decades that the country stabilized, the country settled, and there's been more interest in the oil sector. You know that earlier this year there was the signing of the final investment decision. The final investment agreement signed at Kololo between Uganda and Tanzania. Earlier there was this oil pipeline deal that was signed between the presidents of Uganda and Tanzania. So there's a lot of activity going on in that regard. However, this book, while taking into account all that, while appreciating that Uganda is actually one of the countries with the highest volume of oil still under the ground, it shows the other ugly side of this oil. Now, let me give you a scenario. Just imagine a person who earns how much? 5 million. Yeah, 5 million at the end of the year. He grows tobacco, some sugar cane somewhere, and is paid some little pennies every time for his work, for his labor. Or when he sells his produce, which is either tobacco, coffee, or whatever he sells, at the end of the year, all the money put together comes to about 7 million at the end of the year, 12 months. Now, so this person lives that life, more or less a subsistence life, barely surviving. But yet, okay, some people would say, okay, he lives a good life after all, he doesn't have costs and all that. That can actually be true. Now, just imagine yourself as that person. And then one day you wake up and you're told that wherever you're staying, you need to vacate. You need to leave that place. And as an incentive, as a compensation for your vacation, you're going to be given 300 million Ugandan shillings. Now, that's not a movie, that's a real life. And that's part of the stories in this book. So that happened in Bunyoro. People who are barely earning any money that some people actually earn in a month, were given 500 million. They were given 350 million in a day. And that was their compensation, since the government was going to take over their land and use it for investment, building the oil refinery, building pipelines, or just because where they were staying was areas within the oil wells, and so they had to be vacated. Now, these people went crazy. Let me tell you, there was even a gentleman who sang a song. It's called Professor Lembe. Of course, that professor, is a professor, like a chameleon is a doctor, right? Doctor is a chameleon. So we had Professor Lembe who sang a song and narrated the audience of these people. He said, people got the money and they went into an overdrive of drinking. There are stories in this book of men who married women. Yeah. In one case, one woman, being the smarter one, realized that her husband was nevertheless going to marry someone else. So she simply married for him, in quotes, a woman that she could control and won over choice, to save herself the unfortunate sin of the husband marrying a woman that she couldn't cooperate with or she couldn't put up with. There are stories of people who bought bodas. One man bought a boda, and on his way home, he rammed it into a truck, and that cost him his life. He died. Another gentleman bought a boda, and when he was stopped by the police, who questioned why he didn't have a number plate, he argued with them, so they confiscated the boda. Rather than plead with them or perhaps bribe, I'm not supporting that, but I know that's what many Ugandans would do in such a situation. He went back to the shop where he bought the other boda, bought another one, came, and when he reached that particular spot, drove at a high speed while waving at the police and saying, nothing can stop me. These were the scenarios that side. One particular gentleman, unfortunately, received his money. And when the money was given to him, he couldn't believe it. He asked the bank manager, oops, am I receiving all these millions? And they said, yes. He said, first give me just Jaribo. Give me like 30 million. When he was given the 30 million and he saw it right on the table, he went berserk. He lost his mind. And to date, much of the money that he received in compensation, unfortunately, has been spent trying to get his mind back, to take him to Botanica and all those other places, all in vain. Now, that is one side of the story as far as the families are concerned, how they spent their money. Now, you may wonder, could it have been done better? Could they have been given money in bits? That's what the authors look at. Did the government have an upper hand that it unfairly used? So all those questions are answered in this book. And then there is the question of the kind of eviction that happened. So with oil and with all the developments happening in Bunyoro, there was this high-handedness here, that this wanton use of the law and the police and the force to push people and evict them. So that is also covered extensively in this book. And then we look, another section looks at things like women. In this compensation, were women adequately compensated? Were they considered property owners? You know, there were up to 2,470 households that were evicted. I mean, property owners that were evicted in Bunyoro. And up to 7,000 people were directly affected as family or friends, or those who are staying in, let's say, the same homestead. Now, how were the women compensated? Was it similar to the men? Unfortunately, it wasn't. But you'll find more of that in this book. And then there's the question of the children. The evictions were happening, and then people were sent to areas that didn't have schools for children. Children basically disappeared. It became all a question of oil, all a question of the money. So when the children were sent to the other side, the academic progress stalled because they couldn't go to school, they couldn't continue. The nearest schools were extremely far. So that is also covered extensively in this book. And then there is the question of the curse. The final section of this book looks at the curse. Have we already sold the sins for the oil curse? And I am hesitant to say no, yeah, because it looks like from what I have just narrated, we are sowing those sins, or we've already sold them. I just hope that the situation can still be arrested. I just hope that we learn lessons from that as a country, and if there's any other time that we need to work with people who are going to be affected by certain sorts of development, be it roads, be it oil, be it minerals of any other kind, we work with them better. So this is a book that I highly recommend, especially for people who have an interest in the area of oil or minerals, whether you're a researcher, whether you're a student, whether you're a general reader who just wants to see, to understand more of that field. I recommend it for politicians, yes, especially from Bunyoro. You may want to see what happened to your people. You may want to understand these stories, yeah, and then see how best you can help people in that area. I also recommend this book for academics. Yes, Yusuf and Eria are actually academics. They are from MISA, the Mahiri Institute of Social Research, and most of the papers here are written by people in the academia. So there's some good research for people who are in that field of academia. You will like it. And then for the feminists, I being a feminist, I think it's a book that, since there is a whole chapter dedicated to feminists, I mean to women and how they were evicted, whether it was commensurate with what happened to the men, this is a book that you want to look at. And then those who are concerned with children's rights, yes, there's a whole section on children. And then also people are concerned with issues of housing. Because this book says that people were taken from homesteads. A homestead is way beyond a house. And then they were given houses. Because yes, the other option was that some people were given houses. But if you pick me from my homestead, where I grew up, where my grandfather's grave is just next to my father's, and I can see generations of the family's progress by just looking through the window, and then you take me to a place that I have never been to and say, now you have to stay here, that becomes a very, very serious problem for me, because I'm actually moving away from history and all this past to the unknown. So this is a book that I highly recommend. And the good news is that it's on Mahiri. It's available. If you check on their website, they have this book. Yusuf also has copies, I'm sure you can get. And if you want a copy and leave a comment in the comment section here, we can also get you a copy. We can give you the connections to how you can get a copy. And it goes for only 50,000 Ugandan shillings. For all books, Godwin Toko.